I will say that while I was with him, I never wanted for restful sleep. This was due in part to the fact that I spend most of my time in a near catatonic state. Dr. McAllister kept me restrained in a large underground area that I always thought of as the basement. I was seated in a large, comfortable chair, my hands secured to the arms with soft straps. There was a remote at hand. I was allowed to watch anything I wanted on television as long as the doctor was away. If I was hungry, all I had to do was push a button and a short blonde woman who I would later discover was the doctor's wife would bring me anything I wanted. In the beginning, it wasn't so bad. I was kept in a sluggish state from the drugs he used on me to induce the state he wanted, but it wasn't bad. I watched TV, I ate, and I existed. Given that I had worked 40-plus-hour work weeks and lived off crappy food for most of my adult life, it felt almost like pampering. I was free to do what I liked, except leave or talk to people who were likely wondering what had happened to me. My mom, my friend, my dad. Did any of them wonder what had happened to me? It may seem odd to you that I never tried to escape, but my head was always in a cloud of some sort. The drugs left me in just lucid enough to consume TV or audiobooks. But I never felt able to really settle my thoughts on anything in particular. I knew I should want to escape, but it was always a hard concept to catch hold of. Those days were the good days, back when Dr. McAllister was still operating his practice. That was when McAllister was still pretending to have a normal life. He would come down in the evenings and talk with me, just telling me his problems and asking me to help. He would ask about stocks or bonds, the housing market, business ideas, patents, and inventions. And I would try my best to direct him in the way he wanted. I wasn't sure what he wanted. My head was too foggy most of the time to make any sense of it. But I would try my best to help him without the need to be placed into a unconscious state. We talked for hours about everything from the state of his marriage, the depraved childhood he had lived through, the future of psychology, and even the condition of his soul. I didn't always want to hear what he had to say, but I understood that it didn't really matter what I wanted. It didn't seem to matter anyway. We would talk for hours, but the end result was always a needle in my arm or my neck and several hours of blissful unconsciousness. I remember little from these periods of blackouts, fortunately, but sometimes I would go to a dark place and just hang suspended in the murk. Things would whisper to me there, tell me things I couldn't understand, and I was powerless to stop them. This happened very rarely, but it was still too often for my tastes. I I don't know what I said to Dr. McAllister in those times, but there was always a drastic change when I came back to myself. It wasn't always for the better either. Once I came back to myself and felt something wet in my lap, I glanced down, which was difficult because my head was strapped to the headrest, and found that someone had thrown a head into my lap. I flinched away from it as my soggy brain finally clicked it all together, but it was a little more than a shudder in my current state. The head had wispy gray hair, a pair of broken glasses hanging across the face by one ear, and a nose full of broken veins from a lifetime of drinking. I didn't recognize it. But as it soaked the pants of my pajamas, I did feel like it was familiar somehow. Dr. McAllister was sitting across from me, looking expectantly at the gift he had literally dropped in my lap. And I looked at it with confusion as I asked why he had done this. "You told me to," he said, a little shocked. "You said if I meant to truly get over the cruelty and abuse that my father had given me, then I had to destroy the icon of my father within myself. So I did. I told him that I wanted to meet it so we could discuss our past and reconcile." He was ecstatic. He hadn't seen me in 20 years, and oh, did we reconcile. I waited for him to turn around, and I bashed his head in with a hammer, choking him to death as he lay twitching on the floor. Then I took the body and disposed of it, cutting the head off so I could show you that I had followed your instructions. You were so wise, so correct, and I am your loyal disciple. I started screaming. Mindless gibbering noise, but he just bowed to me. And when the head hit the ground next to him, he didn't even flinch. That was my first inclination that the things I was saying in my sleep might be used in ways I had never considered. After that, he started bringing people down to see me. At first, it was his wife, the blonde woman who had been feeding me. She looked skeptical as she approached, content to keep her husband's secrets, but unsure of joining him in this new experiment. I knew from our talks that he was afraid she would leave him, but enjoyed the financial stability of their marriage. He stuck me with the needle as she sat a few feet away. And when I came to, she was bowing and crying, and she thanked me for helping her see the truth. My husband was right. You are truly a god. I was I was wrong to ever doubt him. Or you. After that, it was friends and colleagues. They all seemed confused when he introduced them to me, calling me his god of knowledge, and some of them laughed, thinking it was a joke. They would sit and talk to me, listening to my answers and looking at McAllister as if to ask if this were some elaborate prank. In the end, though, when I came back from the little naps he would subject me to, it was always the same. Their smirk of disbelief or scowl of confusion was replaced with rapturous awe, and they would pledge their undying fealty to me. No matter how many of them I begged to release me, the outcome was always the same. Over time, a religion of sorts began to form. Over time, McAllister drew in his cult.